So if you've been around RVs enough, or as much as I have, you'll know there's one name that really stands out in quality travel trailers that's not Airstream. And that name is Northwood Manufacturing. Out of Oregon, this company has a great reputation for building some of the best, most well-insulated Four Seasons campers that money can buy. The Arctic Fox and the Nash. I want to go through a few things that make this so heavy, so expensive, and honestly a little bit controversial. Let's get started. So this little Nash 24M is actually not that big. If it was any other brand, I would expect this to be 6,500 to 7,000 pounds. It's actually over 9,000 pounds loaded. And there's a good reason for that. Northwood doesn't seem to care too much about making, lightweight half-ton towable trailers, even though there's a huge market for it. They're really more focused on building quality, well-insulated Four Seasons trailers. Now, it doesn't actually weigh 9,200 pounds. You've actually got over 2,700 pounds of cargo carrying capacity, which is quite high in the industry. What they've done is they've actually gone to a bigger axle than most want to go to. And when we're looking at these axles, if you look here, they're actually using shock absorbers, which nobody really wants to spend money on. Most manufacturers just have the leaf spring setup, but they don't have this shock absorber. Another thing that adds to the weight is this aluminum superstructure. So you've got this aluminum frame. Now, most of the time it's an aluminum hollow frame, but they're actually putting wood cores in so that when these screws go into that aluminum frame, they're not just pushing through aluminum, they're pushing through the aluminum into a wood backer. So you've got the aluminum frame plus the addition of these wood backers definitely adds to the weight. But when I open the door here, we can talk a little bit about why they're heavy, and that's, look how thick this wall is. That is a thick wall. Just to paint the picture on how thick and well built this wall is, Nash decided to take some of the wall cutouts and use them for the base so you can show off to all your friends at the campsite this big, thick wall. This is heavy. This is not just regular foam that you get in your Amazon packages. It's very, very dense, very well insulated and laminated. So that's your inner wall board and your exterior fiberglass. Now for materials, love it or hate it, they have this rustic look. They don't really want to change too much. But another thing that adds to the weight is these solid wood cabinets. These are solid wood, real wood. You can even see the imperfections, like these knot holes. They went ahead and left those in as a character aspect. Even the cover of the fridge, solid wood. And that's going to be a bit heavier than the typical laminated lumber that they'll use. They're also quite thick. Most RVs will have a very thin mattress. In a Northwood product, you're going to get like a residential pillow top mattress. This is much heavier than what you'll see in your conventional RV. So we kind of touched on aesthetics. Some people love it, some people don't love it so much, but they like to keep things traditional. They have like a cabin chic vibe going on here for the decor and the fabrics. It's a bit dark, but it does feel kind of like a cabin. Of course, with the Northwood product, you're going to have the option of a generator. Much more common on the Arctic Fox, but you can also get a generator on a Nash. You don't see that very often in travel trailers. Usually that's reserved for fifth wheels and more commonly toy haulers. We also have solar. Now let's talk about some of the places where they spent money where most wouldn't. Let's look at this skirting. So your typical skirting, just a thin piece of tin or aluminum. Then we come down to the fenders. I'm not going to pick on any brand in particular. Pretty much all brands use this material. It's a thin piece of plastic, and you tend to see a lot of cracking around these screw holes, and these tend to break off a little bit. On a Northwood, they're using a bit of a heavier gauge, but you can see it wraps all the way underneath instead of ending right here to give it more stability. And they put these crimps strategically in these fender skirts to make it much stronger and more rigid. For the fenders don't flare out as much, and they're a much thicker gauge plastic. It's still plastic, but it's thicker. And you'll see less likely that these will crack and break off. They still could, but you know, not always. Here in the front, you're going to get this checker plate or diamond plate on the bottom. That's going to keep the rocks from beating the crap out of the fiberglass. And then solid fiberglass hull on the front. That's going to be very sturdy since the front takes all the abuse from the weather and the traffic and the rocks and debris coming off the road. Now, once you step up to an Arctic Fox, you get more of a significant front cap. So the cap wraps all the way around the side. So this molding right here is off to the side. So when you're driving down the road, if the molding is here, it's going to take more abuse, less abuse over here. It's a thicker, more solid hull. And a lot of people do this aftermarket. This is like a bed liner almost, like a spray-on liner. They go ahead and do that automatically on this Arctic Fox. So this would be the more premium Northwood product. Even things like these baggage doors, they're very thick. They're using slam latches instead of the turn thingies. And then in here you can see nice craftsmanship, nice clean wiring. It's not a mess. They take a little bit more time and they cost a little bit more money, and they're a lot tougher and better for bad weather. Behind this panel at the back, this is where your generator would go. So it's all pre-wired, ready to rock and roll. If you're an off the grid type, which a lot of these people are, and you're not plugged into shore power, but you need that power for the microwave, the television, the lights, and all that good stuff. One small thing that I really appreciate is this nice thick ladder. It's super durable. It doesn't feel scary to climb up on. Your standard ladder is going to be this one. I mean, it's still tough. I've climbed up on these a ton, but just seeing a nice thick ladder that feels more sturdy makes me feel more comfortable climbing up on the roof. And of course, you'll have heat running into your insulated and enclosed basement from your furnace. And you'll have electric heaters on your tanks as well, just to make sure on those cold days you're not freezing up, in your plumbing especially. So yeah, if you're looking for a Four Seasons camper that's well built, nearly indestructible, I mean, anything can break, but it's heavy and built the right way, maybe look at a Nash or an Arctic Fox by Northwood Manufacturing. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like the aesthetic? Do you appreciate the extra weight, durability, the thicker walls, shock absorbers for towing? Let me know.